and on television nothing could match it. But then came Super League. The game was ripped apart. Promises were broken, friends became bitter enemies, and the supporters fled. This week there is talk of peace between the ARL and Super League, but harmony is a very long way away indeed. Next month, the former boss of the Australian Rugby League, Ken Arthurson, publishes an amazingly frank autobiography in which he tells the inside story of Super League's attempted takeover. In an exclusive and at times extraordinary interview with Witness, he pours scorn on Rupert Murdoch and on Kerry Packer, once a close mate, whom he now accuses of breathtaking corporate treachery.
You're simply the best.
2 years ago, Australian Rugby League may well have been the best. But in 1997, the game is in a shocking state. TV and radio ratings are down, corporate sponsors have deserted, gates have halved. And there's no doubt that Super League is to blame.
See how great your game can be. Super League.
I think that it's destroyed a lot of people's lives, mine in particular, as a matter of fact. It's been my life for the last 50-odd years, and it's been a devastating blow to me personally, as it has been to lots and lots of other people.
Lions, short on the short side, and Manly get pushed for another.
He's good, isn't he? He's good. So he's unbelievable.
Ken Arthurson, or Arko to most, ran the Australian Rugby League for 14 years, and in some eyes treated it like his personal fiefdom.
Mark Carroll, upended.
It was Arko, too, who led the battle to repel Murdoch's Super League invaders.
Down the short side, Craig Innes.
And Arko, who protected Kerry Packer's investment in the game. What was the fight about? Money? Football? What?
It's about pay television. That's what it was all about. Pay television and corporate greed, that's what it was all about. I mean, look, let's face facts. If anybody's deluding themselves that Rupert Murdoch suddenly did something for the game of rugby league because he developed a passion for it overnight, I mean, they're just living in a world of make-believe. It's all about television. That's what it's about.
The first shots in the Super League war were fired in February 1995, when, with a little help from Packer, the clubs told Super League to go to blazes. But 2 months later, Murdoch's men had signed up some of the world's best players in a series of super expensive secret deals. And Murdoch was claiming the game was over.
Mr. Murdoch, are you still winning the Super League war in Australia with the Rugby League?
Yeah, I think we just about won it. I think it's nearly over.
Rarely has anyone claimed a more premature victory.
How much does it cost News Limited Super League?
They say it's cost them $300 million. I'd say that's conservative. I think it's cost them...
That's a huge amount of money.
Huge amount of money, and the joke is it shouldn't have cost them anything like that.
One of the problems about rugby league books at the moment is that the bottom's fallen right out of the market.
According to Roy Masters, former coach and now a commentator, Murdoch's team made that common mistake of underestimating its opponents.
And the TV interest has dropped and radio ratings have dropped. So
News Limited was given pretty bad advice by some of the football people who said that the ARL will roll over in a couple of days. You know, you go in and you sign 60 players, the Arthursons and the Quails will roll over. They haven't rolled over.
The pay TV rights that Rupert Murdoch so dearly wanted for his new Foxtel service had been bought by Kerry Packer for just $1 million. A ridiculous amount in view of all the fuss that's followed.
I'm not saying anything about... Can I see where I'm going?
But as Murdoch's man in charge of Super League, Ken Cowley, had already found out, there was no way then that Packer was going to sell.
Ken Cowley went in to see Kerry Packer in November 1994 and attempted to strike a deal with respect of pay TV rights. Kerry, in a very colourful exchange, as is Kerry's way, threw him out of the office. But then, of course, what we've seen 3 or 4 years down the track is that, in fact, they have done a deal on pay TV rights. The casualty in all of this has not been the Packer or the Murdoch families, but the great game itself.
Arko was a mate of Kerry Packer's. He'd been a friend for 20 years. But Super League put paid to that.
I think that was one of the biggest blows to me during this whole saga.
In February 1995, Packer swore blind he wouldn't join the enemy. 9 months later, he did exactly that, buying TV rights to the new Super League from Rupert Murdoch.
I was absolutely staggered because people were saying within the league that it was going to happen, and I said, no, it won't. I've got to deal with Kerry, and it'll stand.
He broke a promise to you, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
Up to the 20, tries to draw them, does that, Hancock.
In a box at the Sydney Football Stadium, Packer had promised Arko personally, in front of witnesses, he would not deal with Murdoch.
Sets of hands away for Lalani Coco, and the captain's in.
He said, I will do no deal with News Limited without your concurrence, and if I get knocked over by a bus tomorrow, those two guys have heard me say it. And he pointed to James Packer and the chairman of PBL, Brian Powers. Now, of course, I said, well, look, I appreciate that. We looked at each other in the eye and shook hands. Well, that was a deal. Well, of course, we all know what's happened since. I mean, there has been a deal done with News Limited, and it has left us out in the cold.
Is there anything you'd like to say to him?
What's the point? I mean, I guess with those guys, business is business, and when a business deal walks in the door, well, friendship and loyalty or whatever flies out the window.
Arko retired hurt from the battle with Super League in March this year. He left the ARL because the strain was in danger of killing him.
A man can only fight so long and so hard.
Shannon Nevin goes across for Manly, and the picnic continues at Brookvale.
But he's still involved with Manly, the team he first played for 47 years ago.
6 points to blot.
On Sunday, they turned on a superb display to stay top of the ARL.
To beat, and Beaver, Menzies, goes across.
But the crowd was modest, the club is losing money.
Inflict another fatal wound.
I mean, the payments that they're getting at the present time are just totally out of all proportion because the game doesn't generate that sort of finance. It can't afford it.
The war with Super League has pushed Manly's wage bill up to $5 million a year. Its gate receipts have fallen to $1 million.
I've seen enough greed and enough treachery in the last 2 weeks in this game to last me a lifetime. Hear, hear.
John Rebo ran Super League until a few months ago. It was his raids on players that sent salaries sky high.
You're right, that there's been some enormous payments made to players for them to stay involved with Super League, and that's caused some pain to both sides over the last few years. But I think it'll all rationalise itself over the compromise talks, and hopefully both parties get together.
John Rebo came from the Brisbane Broncos, and it's them that Arko blames for the mess that rugby league is in. It was the Broncos who suggested Super League to Murdoch after they and the ARL fell out. The Broncos were only conceived in 1988, but they quickly became the ARL's top team.
And there it is, the kickoff!
By 1995, they'd won the grand final twice and were runaway winners in TV ratings, crowds and merchandising. But according to their founder, Paul Morgan, they were always on the outer.
Plenty of those blokes tone deaf around her.
We believe that there was absolutely no democracy in the game. If you weren't one of the Phillip Street men, no one was interested in actually listening to your opinion.
Paul Morgan's having himself on to say that. Look, honestly, the Broncos, and Paul Morgan in particular, whinged from the very first day they were admitted into the league. They conveniently forget all the things that the league did for them. And, I mean, they were making very, very good money, but they wanted to make more and more and more. I think their greed got too much for them, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'll wait until you give us some.
Paul Morgan is one of a new breed of sporting entrepreneurs. He made his money in stockbroking and then turned those skills to sport. In the Broncos and rugby league, he and his mates saw a product that could be sold to the world.
There's no doubt that we were probably seen as a bunch of upstarts, but in saying that, we had our own money on the line. Not only that, we had our own ideas how the game should be marketed, because obviously we'd studied the way sports market in the United States. And in saying all of that, I thought we brought a lot to rugby league.
Look, this business about the best of the best and taking the game to the world and all that, look, honestly, it's just a con. I mean, the fact is the game was already being shown all around the world. I mean, look, I hope people don't think for one moment that in China or India or those places they're sitting on the end of their seat in anticipation of seeing a game of rugby league because, you know, if they never saw one, I think it'd be too soon for some of them.
What's your relationship with Ken Arthurson?
I haven't seen Ken Arthurson for 2 years, but I have no ill feelings towards Ken Arthurson.
He's not a great fan of yours.
Well, that's his problem, not mine.
No animosity towards him?
None at all.
Do you accept it when he says you wrecked the game?
Oh, no, I think that my peers will judge that, and I never regarded Ken as a peer.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't think we have to go into it all that much. I think he did a good job for rugby league while he was there, and he probably stayed a little bit too long. But that's my opinion and no one else's.
Was he straight with you?
No. No, he wasn't.
Can you give me an example?
Oh yes, he told me on not once but on a number of occasions that he wasn't having any dealings with News Corporation in relation to the Super League. That has since been proven to be totally wrong. He was. I mean, all some of these conversations are a matter of record.
Arko says he asked you in 1995 whether you were involved in Super League, and you denied it. That wasn't true, was it?
No, that's not right. Mr. Arthurson didn't ask me that. That's what Mr. Arthurson stated, but I don't want to go into the accusations that Mr. Arthurson made.
Arko is accusing you of being a liar, straightforwardly.
Well, he can keep accusing me of lying. I'll be judged by my peers whether I'm a liar or not. Not by Mr. Arthurson. I don't class as a peer, but if this is a slanging match, we might as well finish the interview.
2 years after the war broke out, rugby league is now being murdered by its biggest rival, Aussie rules. At the SCG this weekend, more people watched the Sydney Swans play St Kilda than turned out for 5 games of rugby league across the rest of the city. Even here, in its heartland of New South Wales, league is losing its mantle of the people's game.
Do you think people have been disillusioned by the whole fight?
Yes, I do. I do. Because, look, at the end of the day, sport belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to the Packers or the Murdochs or the Arthursons or anybody else of this world. It belongs to the people. And I don't think it's right that any business empire, particularly a media empire, should take over the running of any sport. I think it's wrong.
This Sunday, even the Brisbane Broncos played to a crowd of fewer than 14,000 people. 2 years ago, there would have been nearer 40. Even these stars of Super League are hurting, so it's not surprising there's talk of peace.
If there isn't peace, if everyone doesn't settle down and get on with the job, I don't think the game will survive financially. Or should I say, the clubs won't survive financially.
How long have people got to sort it out?
Not long.
Months?
Years? No, probably a year max. But one's hoping that that'll all be resolved in the next couple of weeks.
So what does the future hold? The whisper is that next year could see a united competition, with the ARL running the game and Super League handling the money. But the word is there could still be 22 clubs and not just the best of the best that Super League insists on.
Well, the siren spells relief for the Magpies. The agony is over.
Sooner or later, of course, there will be peace. Exhaustion will prevail. But our advice is rugby league's big match isn't over yet.